In today's video, getting comfortable with change with Kawai. Hello, coaches! Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Quick Tips. My name is Kim Capino, and I've worked with hundreds of teachers, coaches, and leaders in schools around the world to help them create thriving and sustainable instructional coaching programs. And I'm on a mission to help you coach better. Wherever you are in your coaching journey, come learn with us in one of our courses or private mentoring packages designed just for instructional coaches. Join our global Coach Better community and find all of our resources for instructional coaches on our website at coachbetter.tv. If you have a question you'd like to hear us answer or a topic you'd like us to discuss, please drop us a line on our website at coachbetter.tv/ask. Join our Coach Better Facebook group, or find us on social media at Eduro Learning and send me a DM. Don't forget to subscribe here to the channel on YouTube so you catch all of our latest episodes. Today's episode is a highlight from one of our previous podcast episodes featuring Kawai. Kawai's work focuses on helping teams and leaders rethink culture, strategy, and leadership using the power of visuals. This particular clip focuses on creating psychological safety in teams. I'm sharing this conversation today because we know that trust and safety are two huge components on building coaching relationships. And we've been talking about the ways that instructional coaches are informal leaders in their schools all semester. This one clip gives concrete strategies on how you can create psychological safety with the teams that you work with right now. As a coach and a leader, building this skill set will be essential in developing your relational leadership. If you're recognizing that you have an opportunity to grow, either in a coaching role or within your current role or beyond, make sure to check out all of our workshops and courses for instructional coaches. We have options for coaches at every stage of their professional journey, so there's definitely one that's just right for you right now. Check them out at coachbetter.tv/workshops. Okay, let's jump into the clip. Is creating responsive teams and thinking about this, bringing your whole self to work, thinking about creating this inclusive environment, thinking about looking at how we create environments where people feel supported. How do we do that in terms of when we're leading teams or we're creating teams?
Yeah, so I think one of the foundational pieces of the book and one of the kind of things that I think all leaders should know is the concept of psychological safety. This term was coined by Amy Edmondson at Harvard Business School. And I would say that, in psychological safety, she defines it as an environment, a work environment, a team environment, right? Where one can speak up with their questions, their ideas, their concerns without fear of punishment or retaliation, without fear, right? And certainly, this concept has existed before Amy Edmondson wrote about it, right? But what I love is like how it's like a business thing and it's official, right? And it's like, okay, well, we should all think about that, right? And I think as leaders, creating an environment where there is psychological safety, where all voices are heard, right? Where you also, it's not just about equal talk time, but you also are able to discern and elevate voices that maybe have been marginalized or just not heard, really rarely, right? So I think that's one piece, right? Another, this also comes from the book, is about building habits as a team, right? Habits are what really, it's really interesting because I work with organizations that want to rethink maybe it's a vision or values, right? They really want to think about their culture. And if you stop at just naming your values as a school, if you just stop at, and even if you go down to the next level of, okay, we have our values, these are our values as a school. But what does that look like in terms of behavior, right? Even if you name the behaviors, if you don't actually put it into practice and make it a habit for you all, then you're never really going to fully live these values, right? So to me, creating environments and having teams that are more responsive and is really about having habits that promote these things, right? For example, I'll give you something really concrete. If you want to, let's say a value is we're a learning organization. We learn, right? The behavior is like maybe uh, like we we ask each other questions. We assume we have, we don't just make assumptions. We validate them, right? Like those are kind of behaviors we want people to see, right? Then what does that look like in terms of a habit? Well, one habit might be we ask questions before we make statements. You can have that as a team habit, and that's like a thing that's written down, right? And that doesn't mean it's there forever. You can edit it because sometimes habits that you create for your team can have unintended consequences, right? But like maybe one, yeah, is one that we ask questions before making statements. Another might be we talk about mistakes, right? Like we start every Friday with talking about mistakes, right? I mean, that's one of the things, like I want my child to have gratitude in his life, and that's a value that I hold and I want to pass down to him. And so a habit that we have at dinner is at the beginning of every dinner, we talk about what's one thing we have gratitude for that day, right? And it's like to the point where I'll forget and he'll be like, Mommy, what are you grateful for? And I'm like, oh, yes.
I love it. I love bringing it all the way down to habits. I do a lot of work with school teams, kind of similar to the work that you do, but maybe in a slightly different perspective. And one of the things that we talk about when we're kind of setting a team up for success is talking about building in team norms, which is not rocket science and not new, but a lot of teams need support in doing that. And then making that part of their regular routine is like coming back to those norms. And I love the way you concretely articulated how we can take, this case, it would even be the norms, which may be
Yeah.
our values for our team meeting, and create habits that make us constantly be doing the things that we value. That is so clear. And that is such an easy strategy that any team could take and put into place immediately. Like, these are our norms or these are our values. What does this look like if we were doing this on a daily basis? What are the routines we can bring into our conversations so we're doing this regularly? Gold. How do we get comfortable with this possibility for failure? How do we get comfortable with ambiguity and not knowing what's going to happen, having these uncomfortable conversations, knowing that change is around the corner, but not knowing what it might bring?
Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to, I think, the concept of psychological safety. We got connected through Eric Hudson at GOA, at Global Online Academy. And Eric and I do a whole workshop around how to build psychological safety on your team, right? And one of the things we talk about is there's some shifts that need to happen as leaders in order for you to actually build psychological safety. And it hits on just everything you just said, right? One of the shifts is like, um, moving away from like trying to avoid failure to recognizing failure happens, but it's how do you learn from it and what do you do about it, right? I mean, in some ways, it's like having a growth mindset. It's like what we want of our students is what we think of ourselves, right? But as a leader, if you try to avoid failure, I mean, of course, like we don't want to purposely fail, right? Or, it's not like, anyway, but it's really recognizing that mistakes will happen, failure will happen. But how do you recover from it? How do you move on? Another shift is about thinking about like your strategy, your plan as like something that's fixed. Like, okay, like our strategy is our plan. This is the plan going forward. I mean, 2020 threw us such a curveball that it's like your strategy and what you have planned needs to be a hypothesis, right? And be willing to let go and change and shift when you have new information coming in, right? Another shift is really instead of, I think, holding on to a culture of like rule following and obedience. Not to say that we don't have to have that, right? I mean, I think all of these are both and, right? But it's really about prioritizing truth and candor over kind of like, okay, are we doing what we said we would do, right? But it's like, again, this goes back to having strategy as a hypothesis, right? It's you have to, as you get more information, as you discover the truth, you have to be able to shift and to, you know, adapt, right? And so some of it is mindset, but then also then going back to what we were talking about earlier about habits, right? Like if you want to make these shifts, if you want to um, if you want to, let's say, be someone who is more agile, right? Someone that can have a plan. I am like, I will have to say, I will brag and say, I am a very good project manager and I have like the most amazing plans, right? You can have a plan, but if you want to be able to be more agile and adapt to it, maybe a practice that you have is using something like a Kanban board. I don't know if you're familiar with a Kanban board. Yeah, it's not pronounced Kanban. I'm from Texas originally, which is how I would normally pronounce it, but it's a Japanese word called Kanban, and it came from manufacturing. Toyota, an engineer at Toyota, actually created it. But I actually have that right here on the right of my wall here. If I turn my computer, you can kind of see, right? A Kanban board has to do, doing, done. I run all my meetings using a Kanban board. Even workshops I come in and facilitate because I have a plan, right? My plan is to start with a welcome, then we go to the first activity, then we go to the second one, then we have a break, then we have lunch. I have like 10 post-it notes. That's my plan, right? And as we're going through them, I move it from to do to doing, and then when we're done, we move it to done, right? But I use post-its. I create a Kanban board for this meeting because you know what? In the 5-6 hours that we're going to spend together as a team, something can come up. I've had meetings where the team has to take a pause because we were in this meeting thinking that we were talking about how we move forward, but we realized we actually need to talk about why we're moving forward and if we even need to move forward on this thing, right? And so I had this plan. Okay, that's great. Let me put another color sticky and put why and put it on there because that's what we're going to talk about now, right? So having something like a Kanban board helps you be more agile, helps you kind of let go of that plan, right? And that doesn't mean you don't have a plan, but that's the kind of habit that I'm talking about. That's the kind of like, and you have to find these for yourself. And, but you know, it's when you reduce or you when you think about these mindsets and these behaviors that you want and you really reduce them to what's the habit and really think about that and then practice it, that's where you really start living it, right?
So many of those things again resonated with me, and again really appreciated the like physical example of the Kanban board. I think that makes so much sense. I love the idea of facilitating professional learning and having that up there and discussing it and talking about it as you're moving through the different phases. I think that is something again people could take away and use tomorrow. As you were talking, the thing that kept running in my head is in international schools, a lot of schools, especially in the Asia region, have worked with a group called Fieldwork Education. And one of the things that they talk about is this concept of a temporary fixed position. I don't know if that goes beyond their organization, but it's a very similar concept of not thinking about your current plan as being fixed. It's like, this is what we think we need to do right now. So we're going to work in this mold for this period of time until new information comes in, or we get access to something else, or we recognize that our temporary fixed position needs to move. And I think that I also am quite a good planner. As you mentioned, I can make a plan. I can stick to a plan. I'm very type A, like that is no problem. And when
I've seen your emails, yes.
Sorry.
No, it's great. I love it.
Thank you. When you have that mindset, hearing this concept of like temporary fixed position, I remember the person was like, I don't like this idea at all. Like, what is our plan and how are we going through it? But over the years now, it's so obvious to me how you can get stuck in, I don't know if it's like blinders on thinking, I'm not sure how I would describe it in this moment in time, but like, no, I'm just going to doggedly pursue, whatever it was I set out to do, however many months, days, weeks, years ago, without recognizing that every day you're getting new data. And your shift doesn't have to be like we all talked about during the pandemic. Your shift doesn't have to be 180 degrees. It can be just a tweak. So this idea of not thinking about your success or failure by staying fixed to your plan, but that idea of being agile to continue to move towards success isn't even the right word, but the progress you want to make.
Yes, your purpose.
Yes. Yep. Hi, coaches. I hope you enjoyed this clip from Kawai. I've been working with a lot of middle-level leaders lately, supporting them in bringing coaching practices into their leadership role, and psychological safety has been the foundation of many of our conversations. It's easy to think that we have created a psychologically safe environment, but right now is a great time to take a moment to pause and reflect on the structures and habits you're building to make sure you're moving in that direction. Consider ways that you might be able to tap into the undercurrent of what your colleagues might be feeling about their work with coaches. And when you hear a point of concern, give yourself the opportunity to address it. This won't happen overnight, and it's always a good time to build safe and trusting relationships with your colleagues. If you're not sure where you need to grow in order to create these kinds of spaces so you can be successful in your role as an educator, a coach, or a leader, we have an exciting new opportunity for you this spring, a strategy session with me. This is a one-off 90-minute session where we can talk through your most pressing professional challenge and create a practical plan to work it through. It's like coaching and mentoring and strategy all wrapped up into one package, unique and customized just for you. These sessions are perfect for educators, instructional coaches, or school leaders who have one specific topic they'd like to explore in depth and get the support needed to see how to take the next step forward. Get all the details at edurolearning.com/strategy. And if you've been considering joining me for a private mentoring package, but you're not ready for that long commitment, a strategy session is a perfect way to see how we can work together in just one session. And of course, if you're not ready for a strategy session, you're not ready for mentorship right now, we have courses to support you in every stage of your journey as a coach. From new and aspiring coaches moving from the classroom to a coaching role, to current coaches ready to be more intentional and strategic in their practice, to established coaches ready to lead. Get started by trying one of our free workshops where you'll be able to take that next step in your coaching journey and get a peek at our courses for coaches that might be just right for you right now. You can find them all on our Coach Better website at coachbetter.tv/workshops. Wherever you are in your coaching journey, we can support you. If you're curious right now or you have questions, please reach out. You can leave a comment on the show notes on our website at coachbetter.tv. You can leave a comment below here on this YouTube video. You can join our Coach Better Facebook group, or you can find us on social media at Eduro Learning and send me a DM. I'd love to support you on your coaching journey. See you next time.